So on the topic of regular expression, hi everyone, we're starting the session now. On the topic of regular expressions, I was thinking, I was just talking to this gentleman yesterday, Yasser, and one of the things that he brought up was that, I brought up the idea to him, what if we had fluent library that can, produce regex without you having to actually know regular expression. Like you can go and say starts with, contains, and then followed by, and then ends. So it's a fluent API. You'll never have to write regular expression ever again. What do you guys think about that idea? Is that a great idea or what? What do you think?
That would be bloody awesome.
Right?
And
Yeah.
even better would be if you could put it on a web page such that you could kind of describe it with like SQL-esque pseudo English type syntax, and then it generate the regex for you. I thought
So,
about that a
mhm.
few years back, but there's so much complexity to regex that
It's not. It's not. I
it's
promise
just
you, I did a
nuts.
POC. It's not that hard. The
Really.
rules, there's only about 20 rules. And if you can actually do like a fluent kind of extension methods, to kind of just keep, chaining with a little bit of control. There's it's sitting somewhere that I did a POC for this, but I want to make it like again, I want to make it an experience, just like OData Neo. I want someone to pair with me and write that with me. It'll probably take like 3 sessions from us, and boom, you have a new get package out there, living, breathing in the world that can produce. So people watching, if you want to do that series with me, I'd be more than happy to kind
You
of
can
take a look.
call it irregular expressions.
You know, I'm gonna call it irregular expressions just
There you
because I
go.
like you, Joe. This is what's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Definitely.
Irregularexpressions.net. That's what it is. So
I'd be up for that.
there has been attempts in the past. Unfortunately, it wasn't very like the guy just abandoned the project. Let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. Let's go
It's
here.
a fluent string builder, essentially.
Yeah, it is. It's a
Yeah.
smart string builder. Yes. It's
Yeah.
so check this out. Fluentregex.net. There's one lonely, so okay, there it is. So this poor guy, I think that's where it is. So 4 years ago, he went and said, I want to do this. So fluent start regex, match anything repeated, then positive forward assertion. Look what he's doing. There's another one that I'm pretty sure there's another one that's like, oh, and he didn't VB.net. That just tells you how old this platform or this code is, right? So, match anything, match end of line. I don't want to do it this way. I mean, kind of this way. This is a flavor of what I'm trying to do. I want to make it even simpler than that, right? And it's a pretty cool library, and I think a lot of people will use it because the whole idea, like my main investment is in the engineering experience. So if I can't bring there it is, 7 years ago. That's the guy. Look at this. 7 years ago, I think he got married or something. Something happened to him. Anyway, so start of the line, sit literal, sit. This one is a little bit easy. I want it to be something a little bit more than that. So what I'm thinking, and I was talking to Yasser yesterday, I basically went and said, okay, let's do this. Let's go and say, from regular expression, somehow you want to start somewhere, and then you say contains letters, and you can either add specific letters like an array, or you can just say, from to, like that, right? And then you can say then numbers, or you can say or numbers, and then you can go and say from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 9. So it's doing the work for you. It's doing the thinking for you, and it's telling you what the options are out there. We need a consistent language in designing this SDK, because once you put an SDK like this out there, you don't know who's going to use it, right? You don't know who's going to end up using it. And they might end up in some production environment, as so every intern project ends up being a production code. And then let's bring in the seniors to make that project work. I just don't understand. It was working yesterday. Well, you know,
Hassan went and broke something.
every time they hire me, man, I just take down something.
Yeah.
My,
Typical
my
project manager.
I remember I was working in a company about some 9, 10 years ago. And when I joined the company, I took down their master database. Just took it down.
Yikes.
They had a they had a thing called what you call it, like a nullable object of some kind, and I forgot to make it nullable, and I just took down the whole thing. Boom.
Yeah, I remember when I started a job working for my local council, and
Mm,
I'd been handed this project that was given to me that was basically they'd hired a contractor for the last couple of years, paid him some extortionate amount of money to build
uh-huh.
this application, and then they decided that he was essentially too expensive, so they wanted to get their own in-house developer, and
Uh-huh.
that was where I came in. And I knew it was throwing a lot of exceptions and it was
Uh-huh.
having a few, problems here and there, but I didn't quite know the scale of it. So what I did was I added, in typical ASP.NET fashion, I added a global error handler, and I said, right, when this happens, send me an email with the exception in it. And I added this at 5:30. Everybody had gone home. It's a council building, right? So nobody works past 5 o'clock. I came in first thing in the morning, like before anyone else, because I'd had an early start that day, to the infrastructure manager screaming at me, going, "What have you done? What have you done?" And I was like, "What?" Well,
Uh,
it turns out that our email cluster had gone down because I had
yikes.
received 1 million emails plus. It took me
Yikes.
the remainder of that day to clear my mail out. It
You
was just
know,
bonkers.
you know what Exchange Server does today? I'm
I'll
doing
never
this
do that
test
again.
project where I get like 7,000 emails, and once you start getting 1,000 emails within a certain period of time, it says you're receiving too many message throttling. So it will slow down.
Yeah,
Emails got really, really smart. And by the way, just so you guys understand on the topic of emails and regex, there's no such a thing as email validation. You know, like like if I say poll at IBM and not do .com or .net, that's still a valid email address, especially
yeah.
for intranet. Also, don't forget
I've seen
the
the meme about that, isn't there? Because there's about 500 different email validation regular expressions of people going, well, you can do it this way, or you can do
yep,
it this way.
yep,
But the long and short of it is, yeah, as long as there's an at in the middle, you can pretty much stick anything you want in there. And actually, if the mail server accepts it, potentially, you don't even need the at sign.
yep,
But it really boils down to, that's just a convention that everybody's accepted. It's not a
yep,
standard.
yep,
Uh, it,
exactly.
it gripes me actually because one of the sort of ongoing running jokes that I love to throw at development teams that work with me is that email and HTML in email, it's like its own little micro standard, and I refer to it as HTML 1990 because these days doing anything more than what HTML was back in 1990 will throw off most mail clients or not render correctly for some reason, and it's usually security related.
Hmm.
I'm of the opinion that email should just be outright retired and there should be some better system that replaces it, whatever it is.
Hmm.
There's enough
Hmm.
like messaging systems out there these days. We could just globally standardize messaging. It wouldn't be
Yep.
that hard. I wouldn't have thought, but
Do you
the
think emails
difficulty,
are
of course,
going away?
I think they
They should just
should.
update the protocol,
Yeah,
Mm.
like
I think they
have
should.
like HTML5, but it's going to
Hmm.
be SMTP2 because
Yep, because that damn
that's
thing
the
never got an
version.
update.
Actually, I don't
Or
know
at
what
least,
version SMTP is. I'm assuming it's 1.
or at least update all mail clients to say, hey, they're basically just browser sandboxes. So you take something like the Chromium framework and say, right, all mail clients now support that as a standard. So then at least I can construct, say, a web page, and I can just say, okay, I'm going to send that in an email, and it's safe to execute because it's inside the
Sandbox.
sandbox. So that
Yeah.
would allow me to do things like construct reports with like expand collapse areas in them, things like that I could send to my colleagues. Make email useful again, turn it into
Yeah,
a
yeah.
modern dynamic thing.
I
Even if
remember a
you do it
time.
with something
Mhm,
like Gmail,
mhm.
or Outlook Online or whatever, it just strips all of that JavaScript out because JavaScript's not supported. It's like,
Right.
why? Why is this a problem?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, if you think about emails, you know what I'm thinking? Like emails, okay, so you have this Web3 wave coming in, right? Cryptocurrency, blockchain, NFTs, all of that. So, as usual, as a lot of people would say, just for you guys, historically speaking, people actually used to say the internet was a fad that was going to go away. The internet is a fad. People were speaking exactly the same way about the internet, the same way they're speaking about cryptocurrency, blockchain, and NFTs and all that stuff today. Okay. And then it happened. Someone figured out a way to make the technology useful. Now, don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of technologies that people tried in the past and it just didn't work out. Like so far, right now, we're still struggling with VR. Virtual reality didn't hit, the stream that the people that are adapting this technology, like this Oculus and the Rift, when these things came out, they were extremely expensive and some people bought into it. But then, the eye strain, having a thing, strapped to your head for God knows 5 hours or whatever, it's gonna destroy your brain. Okay, it's like
I always tell
literally,
people,
it's like
I've got
yeah, it's
friends that have got these VR headsets, and I always
yeah,
tell people that I'll get them when we're not in the. We are today for VR where we
yeah,
were when a mobile phone was a suitcase. I said
yep,
when we get to the
yep.
equivalent VR kit of the iPhone, so to speak,
It will be lens,
then
just a lens that you attach to your eye, and that's
yeah,
it, like a Black
that's when
Mirror
I'll adopt
episode.
VR.
They
Yeah,
started
Paul
doing
is.
that with Google Glass years ago, and that
They
fell through.
tried. They tried.
Like that was
And
a
it was.
simple little like monocle thing, and
right. Yeah,
There are
I think
also.
they were on the right track. I think what they should have done is built a headset that you could just tether to your mobile phone. That would have been a good start point.
Yeah, yeah, but the thing, so you guys, I have friends that work at Google, and the problem with Google is that they shut down almost 98% of the projects that they start. That's the problem. Like they will let you go innovate and do whatever you want, and be like, we don't see the market value. Shut down. That's why engineers love Google so much. Why? Because you get to go and play a hackathon as a job, right? Your day job. Actually, in fact, some of my friends even told me like at Google, they don't go to program managers to say what the next step are. They go to the engineers and tell the engineers, hey, what should we do next in terms of business? What should we explore? Because technically Google is built, every time you have a company that's led by software engineers, like an actual engineer that's actually the CEO of the company, you'll see some of the craziest stuff in the world. Again, Elon Musk, all of these people, you start seeing someone launching a car into space, right? Anyway, Sam, were you waiting in the waiting room for so long? Did I forget you?
Yes.
I am very sorry about that. I love you, right? You're my brother, brother forever. You know what I mean? Okay. All right, guys, let's pick up where we left off. So last time, Paul, the ball was with you, right? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so
And you
the
were
way that we
supposed to write
left
a
it
failing
was
test, and you failed us.
so all I did was I didn't really even change the test that was there. I just added to the dictionary that we were building out, and I'm done. So I've committed what is now a failing test without actually changing anything.
Do you want to show us the thing?
Yeah, let's go through the thing. Hang on, man. Should probably close down all my work stuff. Here we go. Share screen. Swap on. Okay, so what we had
Dear
was
Lord in heaven, look at this guy.
yeah.
Look at this guy. Like, what do you do? All right, go ahead. Now I see it. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So what we had was this. This was the existing test. Okay,
Yep.
and so all I've done is we started talking about this concept of having all tokens.
Nice.
I came to the conclusion when I did a bit more sort of digging into it that there wasn't really kind of like a continuous set of all tokens that followed
Mhm.
kind of like the same standard.
Mhm.
And the reason for that was there's a basic set of tokens that are essentially what I consider to be kind of they are what they are, right?
Uh-huh.
And then there's what I call a complex set of tokens, which are, for example, I could define an OData parameter as being $, and something, right? So there's a
Mhm.
certain amount of randomness that we need to apply in order to test that. And I thought, oh, great. As soon as I mention the word random, you're going to be right in there and loving that. So what I've essentially done at the moment then is I've added a few more to the basic set, which was previously labeled like all tokens, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the act of doing that, of course, has caused the test to fail again.
Yep.
And then what I've done is by separating these ones out into their own, if you like, their own set of theory data, we can test those with proper randomization going forward. But I guess the next step is to get the setup here passing, right?
Yeah. So the
Potentially add to them.
yeah. So the complex tokens, stash those and push a commit, and the basic tokens, give that to Joe to make it pass.
So I have checked in both sets already, but the complex ones are not.
We're not
used
using
by
them, right?
anything.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So just throw them
So
away.
they're just there. Yeah.
We
Yeah, I can pull them back out if necessary.
right. If you can stash them, because we're gonna need them, but not yet, because we don't have code corresponding to them.
Yeah, so they're already committed, is what I'm saying. And they're already up and on GitHub.
I know.
Because what I didn't want to do was lose the code, basically.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, just erase them and we can go back to that commit. No problem.
Yeah. What, should I take them out of here? Or...
Yeah. All right, Joe, you're it. Joe, do you want to write code today? Doesn't look like he wants to do shit.
I'll try.
Okay. Do you know C sharp?
Let's see.
Does
So-
anyone know C sharp? Has anyone ever used Visual Studio before? Oh, you'll be pleased to know this is the preview version. That we
You
talked
you
about
guys should
downloading
say
last
I was just chatting with Fowler yesterday. I said to him, he loves this language. He's like even after the session, he's just he just can't see anything that can't be done with C sharp, which is not wrong. C sharp is very powerful. You know, yeah,
Definitely.
let's see. It's gonna be interesting.
I remember for years after C Sharp first came out, all the big arguments that used to come out with the C++ guys saying, "Oh yeah, but it's slower," but actually
It
now they've gotten
was.
to the point where if you actually look at the workflow,
Yeah.
the last stage in the compilation is basically a customized version of the C++ compiler. So they're
Yeah.
arguing against their own compiler if they continue to argue. It's just like, where do you go with that, right? It's the
I
same-
also I have to say though, Paul, I think these guys are from your neck of the wood. The folks that did the mono, are they from England?
the Xamarin guys.
No, the mono folks. Well, Xamarin built on top of it, right? But
Mono's the
Xamarin
open
made-
source .NET framework.
yeah.
Yeah, didn't Xamarin make Mono? Wasn't it the same thing?
Oh, was it? I didn't know that.
I could be wrong. I don't know. I
Okay,
could be wrong.
Mono.
I think they were their own thing when they started.
Were they?
Yeah,
So they didn't make it, but did they buy it or something? Because I know when Microsoft acquired
Xamarin relies on it very heavily to do the
Yeah.
cross-platform stuff.
Yep, the creators of it is it was Xamarin. Joe's right. So .NET Foundation, but the original author is a guy called is a company called Shimian or Zamian, and these guys are they're from Massachusetts. Don't worry, Paul. You didn't do nothing. You know, I'll tell you something, Paul. Do you know who is the programmer I respect the most in the United Kingdom?
Go on.
Alan Cox. Do you know who that guy is? This guy is the Red Hat master.
Oh right.
Look
the Red
him
Hat
up.
guy.
We look very similar. Look him up. We look exactly the same. You find him.
See what you mean?
Yeah, Alan Cox. And then you have another guy in England. His name is who's the guy that wrote the story of Vendetta? V for Vendetta, Paul. What's his name? Alan I can't remember. I like that guy too. The guy who came up with the story. He's a pretty badass. I love him too. And then
Oh
of
no,
course
he
you have
left.
yeah, and then of course you have J.K. Rowling. What do people think about J.K. Rowling, Paul?
Yeah, she's an interesting character, isn't she?
Yeah. Sam, what do you think about J.K. Rowling?
The Harry Potter, also the Harry Potter.
Yeah,
My daughter
she loves the story.
loves the love story, loves Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's very true.
I haven't seen the movie and the book, so I'm no feeling about her. But my daughter loves her.
Yeah, J.K. Rowling is all right. Okay, Joe is going to town, you guys. He's making it to the next level.
I'm just catching back up to where we left off.
So Paul just he really just created a this simple dictionary. Eventually that switch statement is going to be in its own private method because we're going to send those across a full
Yeah.
string. But we are now at this stage where we're just building, which I love. I love how we went back. They should teach that in schools. Erase, start over. Let's try this again until we get it right. That's software craftsmanship right there, you know. And then there's Paul.
Hey, I think people often forget that for any given block of code that's in a code base, you might have, say, 10 lines of code, but what was probably actually written to achieve those 10 lines of code
Probably a
was
thousand. Yeah,
probably 1,000. And
yeah.
people don't really appreciate how many hours go into a developer actually just producing such
That's
so
why I'm
little.
recording this so people understand that a guy didn't just sit on an afternoon and wrote 10 lines of code. That's not
Hashed
what
it
this is
out.
about.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the
Joe, you
idea
look
that we
like a
had,
deer in the
Joe,
headlight. What happened? Go ahead, John. Go
I'm
ahead.
just catching up to where we were
So,
and
so,
figuring
so,
out.
so let me help.
Maybe
Let me help.
just add more keys in the switch
Exactly what Sam just said. Go for it, Joe.
tokenization service.
See how Paul is mapping to an operand and a white space and all that? Do it
Mm.
exactly in that same order. That's all you gotta do, brother.
Copy
so
one. Just copy the equal to the comma. Copy line from 18 to 22, and paste. Go to the dictionary. LT, I think. We missed the LT, LE, blah, blah, blah. A lot of things.
Yep, he put a lot of things in there. The idea here is that you're not dealing with a raw string anymore. Now it's tokenized, so we can do a lot of things with it. There is a lot of stuff I'm learning here. This is great.
I don't know, kind of like at what stage we want to start talking real design here, but the idea that I kind of had in mind was that internally the tokenization service would have dictionary where the key was the token type and the value was an expression that determined whether or not that token type matched. So what you'd essentially do is you'd
And
read.
Miss GT.
I'm listening, Paul. Let him. He knows Sam. Let him play. This is the first time we engage Joe in programming. So let him play around for a little bit. Go ahead, Paul. I'm listening.
Yeah, let me play. So the idea was that you'd read one character and you put that into a temporary variable, and you'd say, okay, does that match any tokens? Yeah, or any token types from the internal dictionary? And you'd probably get a no. So then you'd add another character and you'd go, okay, does that now match? And let's say you got a yes and it matched a particular token type. You'd add the next character, and if you still got the same token type, that was also part of the token. And you keep doing that until you didn't get a match. And then you got a different token type, because at that point you've spread, if you know what I mean. So then what you can then do is you can take that section of the string, you can say, okay, that's my match, and then rinse repeat the process. So effectively like a string reader type mechanism where you read n number of characters and go one more and confirm. So that would allow you to match, for example, white space characters, right? So if you had one white space, you might get a white space return. But if you had two white space, you might still get a white space token returned as the result. But then if you added the third character, it might be the E from EQ or something. And so it would go, oh, no, that doesn't match anymore. So you go, oh, okay, everything up to that E, but not including the E, is my token. That was my logic.
Will you... I see what you're saying. So it seems to me that there is three types of tokens here, general types of tokens. And indulge me on this one, Paul, just see where I'm going with this. There is a separator token. And this separator token is the distinguisher between the end of one token and the beginning of another. So think about the spaces, open parentheses, the ands, all of that. These are separator tokens, right? The and is a little hybrid, but the open close parentheses and all that, it basically tells you
Scoping. Scope tokens. So like braced is...
well, the space is not a scope though.
Right.
A white space is not a scope, right? And is not a scope.
That's a good point.
But these particular pieces, they cannot be part of any other category of tokens. So that's the number one category, the separators. They tell us the end of one token and the beginning of another. Okay. The equal sign. The equal sign, not the EQ, but the actual equal sign. That's a separator. So we can dig deeper into the categories here. But the second type is the keywords, the operators like EQ, like $select, like whatever that is. These are operators kind of keywords. And then the last one is the user input, like when you say name, property, Sam, Paul, 15, 25, whatever. What do you think? What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, potentially.
Why is that important? In my mind, I think the order of which we break out tokens out of the system is really important. Like you have that string, or like that query string, and you're starting to find specific things. Are you gonna just really parse left to right as you go, or are you gonna start looking for particular categories of tokens first? Oh, excuse me.
I
So
would
you
say left to right anyway, because what you've essentially got with tokenization is inherently a sequential operation. If you think about kind of what you're feeding in and what you want out, you're feeding in if you like, you're feeding in a sequence of characters, and what you want out is a sequence of tokens, right? So the only thing that you really care about is where the splits are in the sequence of characters in order to determine what the next token is.
So why don't we break our tokens under these three categories instead of saying end scope equals hyphen dot and all that?
Well, it may matter. So going based on...
Oh, it will matter at the O node level. But at this
so
level...
what I read from Sam's existing implementation was that if a character was a certain particular character, or if you like, a token was a particular type, it mattered further down the chain. You know, us being able to declare a particular token type as being a unique thing, like a begin scope and an end scope. Knowing the difference between a begin scope and an end scope token, instead of just saying, hey, this is a scoping token, was essentially important in that context. And I can see how that may or may not be important in our context. However, there is something to be said for, depending on the consumer of this, what does end scope and begin scope really mean? We may be making some assumptions here by saying, hey, look, an open brace is a begin scope token, instead of just saying, hey, no, it's just an open brace, right? But then does that mean something else? I guess it comes down to like what's
No, you are actually absolutely 100% right. You know why? Because I could be doing filter equal $filter equal description contains single quote, open parentheses, close quote, single quote. And in that scenario, that open parenthesis is not a separator or a scope anymore.
Yeah, so one of the basic tokens that I think I put in there was a quote. Yeah, line 37, like you can see it on the left. Now, I think when we get into the complex scenarios where we're saying, hey, a quoted string, if you like, a string literal contains a special character, we're going to need to handle that case and return that string literal as a single token. But yeah, outside of a string literal, an open brace means something, and inside a string literal, it means something else.
Hey, Paul.
It should be processed something else. Yeah.
What's the real name for this the star?
It's also referred to as an asterisk.
Thank you.
Was that funny?
I always call it by an asterisk.
Yeah, I think, again, I've spent too much time in the existing OData implementation. I think I've been trying to sort of learn a little bit from Sam's experience on sort of how this stuff works in the existing framework to get an understanding of query parsing and some of the complexities that he's faced. And that's kind of pushed me in a certain direction to sort of say, look, these are some of the challenges that I know that need to be addressed when we sort of move forward with this stuff. I am, however, trying to sort of take on board a lot of the things that you're saying, Hassan, where what we don't want to do is assume too much specifically about OData. And we want to stick to really just URL generalizations, right? What can appear in a URL? And the general sort of rule that we're going to have here is, hey, what we're going to be given is something that's going to follow a question mark. We don't know what it is, but it should be a string of essentially Unicode characters that can be displayed in a browser's URL. However, we can't make that assumption. I remember last week you were saying something about an unknown token as well. There may be a case for us to actually add something like that in the case that we get a character that's technically not valid as part of an OData query.
Right. Okay, Joe. Wow, look at you.
Yeah, I had a little spaz out moment trying to figure out the quickest way to copy and paste.
Can I see the code real quick? Can you go back there?
No.
Like that. No, not this.
So this
Smart
is the test.
pants.
Let me go to the code.
Yeah, sure.
I don't like being on Spotlight. It throws me off.
Okay.
But it's okay. Here we go.
Yeah, it looks fine. This is perfect. You know, we could put it in a partial class on the side or something like that. No worries. Okay, cool. Oh,
let's do this.
All right. If there is only a way you can do them all at once.
The formatting, the built-in formatting doesn't do all these at once. So it's
what happens if you do Control KD? Does it do anything?
My keyboard bindings are different from yours. Thank you.
If you highlight them all and do Control Tab to pull everything back, then you can re-tab to push it all forward as one block.
Oh, I could do that. Control click.
So highlight the whole block that needs to be properly indented.
There we go.
There it is. There he is.
With fire.
There he is. That's my brother right there. Okay, keep going. Okay. And now he's just gonna do all of them at once. Just one tap Boom. Now we're cooking. That's my
Uh-oh.
brother.
There we go. Ooh, that might not work.
Oh,
Can I do that?
cancel
There,
this
fix
one.
it.
Okay, okay. So you just clicked on it again and it disappeared?
Yeah,
All right, tap it out. Look at that. You
all
learned
done.
something new today, Paul?
That's the other way.
Multi-carat editing. Control-Alt-Click.
Control Alt click, and if you do Alt and just drag, you can do a whole bunch at once, which is pretty cool.
This is column selection.
Yep, yes, sir.
All right,
Okay, okay. What is that empty space at the bottom? What happened?
that's a bunch of empty space. There we go.
Thank you, Joe.
Oh, there is an empty space right here because in the test there was an empty space as well, right there.
Yeah, so what we can do is to actually put them in two theory data, methods, and pass both of them in. You know what I mean? But I'll try this out. I haven't done this before. Like, I know that you can do multiple inline data, but can you actually pass in two data members? That would be interesting. All right.
I don't
Nope,
think
nope,
you
nope. What are you
can.
doing? Just put the test name and just say pass. Gosh, dang it,
What's the
Joe.
test name? Let's go find out. Basic
Okay.
tokens? No.
No, if you
Why
go
you got to be like this, Hassan? Why you got to be like this?
because there's a standard, there's a way to do things, The larger this application gets, if you don't stay true to that standard, oh, everything is going to be complicated so fast, you know. Just
That's the fun of it, though, isn't it? It's
just
giving you things to think about.
No, just a thin arrow, Joe, and then pass. Thank you. That's all.
A thin arrow?
Thin arrow and then pass, like dash.
Oh, I got you. Thin arrow, not the fat arrow.
Yep,
There
and just take away the ED and then commit.
Pass.
Thank you, sir. Perfect. Now your commit and Paul's commit are consistent with each other. He made it fail and you made it pass. Boom. So what's the next test?
Failed.
The next
Oh, because I didn't grab latest.
No, I think your token is at. No, you're fine. Okay.
No?
Now, yeah, your token is whack.
I'll
So
figure it out.
let me try the, yeah. So do you see the three dots on the right side? Three dots.
This one.
Yeah, click that guy and then go into your manage remotes.
Manage remotes.
No, just go back and just do manage remotes. You'll be fine.
There we are.
Yep, and then go click on general. That's why you're kicking off from your own company account
Oh, I gotta switch.
instead of, yeah. So you can set it up here if you want, and it's not going to change globally. This is the equivalent of you going and saying get dash dash config user.name, get dash dash config user.email and all that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now back to Paul. What's the fun about being inconsistent? Go ahead. I'm listening. Ironic, huh? Coming from someone from the United Kingdom, everyone dressed up the same or shit like that.
Wow, where did you get that from?
You know the one thing I love about England when I was there, everyone dressed up so nice. You should see people here in the airports in their pajamas. I never would see someone in their pajamas, or maybe things have changed. It's been a long time, Paul. Do people just walk out in the street in their pajamas now in England?
I suppose it depends where you are. Just like in America, you have kind of different suburbs of places, right? Some places that look a bit nicer than
Go
others.
to the biggest cities here in America and go to the airport. You'll see wonders. You'll see
You certainly get a
amazing.
mix of people when you go to built-up areas.
All right. Okay, so for our next, there's Sam. Sam's been waiting again. Sam, how long you've been waiting?
Just minutes.
You dropped off. You got mad. Is that what happened? Why did you get mad at
Restart
me?
the computer.
Your computer? You need a new computer. You've been working on this machine for years now. It's time. You need to talk to Michael, the
it's
Mike.
it's,
And
it's time to the flash.
yeah, I need you need to give the machine the coffee break. You know what I mean? A coffee break? Oh, 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 what? Oh, the coffee dropped on the machine. The coffee break. Literally, right?
Give the computer a shower and
Yeah, give
restart
it
the
a
computer.
shower. And then put rice on it, Um, okay. So, Joe, you're good from your side?
Yeah, I'm just gonna get this pushed up and then it'll be good.
Okay. So the next step, Joe is still gonna write us a test that runs these, produces these tokens. This is where it gets a little serious, right? You need a test that runs a sequence, a random sequence of these tokens, and then produces a tokens, an array of tokens. That's our next thing. Let's do
I
that
think the
next
next
time.
thing should be to
Hmm.
check on the complex tokens. So stick to individual tokens still, but the
You wanna
complex
you wanna
ones
do
are going to,
individual?
yeah,
Yeah,
because I
that
think they're
works
still
too.
going to require some randomization. Because things like checking for, say, a GUID literal,
Uh-huh.
you don't always want to throw in the same GUID, right? You want to throw in a random one.
Sure.
Or something like an OData parameter, like we were doing before. You want to be able to say dollar some random string.
We could do that too. I think if we stick to these three categories that I was just talking about in terms of tokenization, we can start by single tokens, and then we can go start looking into a whole bunch of them at once. I like
Yeah,
this strategy. This could work.
yeah, build it up. So
Yeah.
yeah, the what I call the basic ones, then the complex ones, then strings of potentially multiple of combinations of both, essentially, and then that's how you build out the full set, right?
Right. What do you think about that idea, Sam? Does that sound like a good idea?
Yes.
Okay, let me take away Joe's screen so he can do it, comfortably. What Paul and I were talking about, is that there are three types of tokens out there, and these types may have subtypes, right? There are ones that separate one token from another. There is one that is reserved, like a keyword, and there are ones that are the actual input from the user, property names, values, whatever the case may be, right? So Paul's idea is that we're going to try to write tests that parse and tokenize individual ones. And then at some point in time, we're going to try to go and say, well, you know, since we got them individually, now let's send a query and let's have that query, you know, be what happened? Wow, that's weird. What just happened? Okay. Okay.
It's a game,
Wow.
game ring.
So I don't know. Joe has kids. Paul has kids. You have kids.
Yeah.
It's fun. I'm having fun with you guys. All right, cool. All right, let's wrap it up here. Let Joe kind of fix his thing. The next one is that Joe, you're just gonna write a failing test for the set of tokens that Paul already just removed. Just go to that commit and write a test for it. Like have it fail with that. And we need to investigate whether we can add multiple data members in the same test because that's very much what we're trying to do here. All right. But other than that, if you guys don't have any questions, comments, concerns, compliments for Joe today because he kicked ass, his very first coding with us in this community, this lovely community we have, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you so much. Goodbye.